Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the First Universalist Rochester, where we are called to nurture the spirit and to serve the community. I am Lane-Mairead Campbell, and leading worship with me this morning is Doris DeLamba, our worship associate, Theo Munson on piano, standing in for our music director, Dr. Brock Tresvold. We have Emma Berry, Cunningham doing our tech support today. You're amazing and incredible. And we also have Karen McGrath leading our online ministry team online. It is good for us to be together. If you are here this morning for the first time, whether in person or online, we welcome you. We are so glad you are here. You will find a visitors form both in the chat online, and if you scan a QR code in your pews, please fill out this form so we can offer you a welcome beyond this worshiping space. We host a new session on the third Sunday of every month for folks to ask questions about our congregation and more about First Universalist, both online and in person. Our next one is October 10th, so please join us for that if you are new. Before we take a moment to turn to our neighbors both here and online, let us connect our two communities. If folks would turn towards our green camera over here in our sanctuary and offer a wave. And you can see folks online, it is so good to have you with us. So good to be together. I invite folks online to please pop into the chat for a this morning, and for folks here at First Universalist, please rise and offer one another a greeting this morning. Let's sing, huh? Let us sing. Please rise in body or in spirit As we sing hymn number 1000 in your teal hymnals, morning has come, a celebration of the morning in case you need a little bit of extra celebrating this morning, having gotten up on a bit of a cloudy day. Let us sing.
Good morning. I'm extending an invitation from Lynn Potts to join the journey. Let me get in front of the mic so you can hear me. So, she speaks of journey to the mythical land of Oz. For me, this is life's journey, and we all can join it. Come, you accidental pilgrims, you who find yourself journey surprise and wonder. Come, you who emerge to this place as an act of liberation. Come, you seek a life of mindfulness and a place to test your thoughts. Come, you who bring hearts of all kinds, heavy hearts, rusty hearts, hearts spread open in revelation, hearts full of love to share. Come, you who seek courage, and you who have more courage than you realize. Come, you who stand behind the curtain, gathering up the resources to claim your truth. Come, you who have been in a bubble, you who are poised for transformation. We begin our journey gathering courage, love, mindfulness, and a sense of purpose. We gather as people of all ages, of different abilities, different backgrounds, and different perspectives. We share a covenant, a direction for our shared journey, and a commitment to encourage and challenge one another to spiritual growth. This path we're asked from us. Let us move forward with love. Let us move forward with appreciation for one another. Let us move forward knowing we are not alone. Whoever you are, whatever your gifts, you are welcome to join this journey. Come, let us worship together. As Nancy Gady comes forward to light the chalice, may we recite the chalice. May we be a people welcome here to grow in heart and mind and spirit, and may we reach out to serve our community. Please rise in body or in spirit and join me in our affirmation of faith, followed by our doxology. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity and fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the source and meaning of life. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all. These are the words of Kristen Collins. We give. We give to remind ourselves how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and sacred space. We give with the faith that together we have enough. You're invited to drop an offering in the basket or give online by scanning the QR code in your pew. For folks online, please click the link in the Zoom chat window to give to First Universalist Church. You can also send a check in physical mail. Thank you, generosity.
Our story this morning is a story from the Baal Shem Tov with some commentary by Rabbi Jordan Ronig. On Rosh Hashanah, I often acknowledge that all that talk of royalty can be a bit off-putting. What do modern people care about kings and queens, thrones and palaces, pomp and regalia? I sometimes say that we, humanity, may have moved beyond this metaphor. This year, I'm not quite so sure. The Hasidic masters seem to have understood our ongoing appetite for stories of kings and queens of flesh and blood. So, not to miss out on this royal moment that we're all living through, I'll share the story that has been transmitted through the name of the Bible. Once, there was a powerful queen who had a beloved child. Out of love for the child, the queen wanted him to see the world, to experience different cultures, and to be educated by living beyond her borders. So she sent him to a far-off country, supplied with a generous quantity of silver and gold, yet far from home, the child squandered resources, fell on hard times, partied a bit, and a year suffered the pains of the world. Finally, in distress, he resolved to return to his mother's house, and after much difficulty and even more time, he managed to live at the gate of the courtyard to the queen's palace. But in the passage of time, he had actually forgotten the language of his native country, and he was unable to identify himself to the guards. In utter despair, he began to cry out in a long, loud wail. The queen, recognizing the voice of her son, went out to him and brought him to the house, hugging him, kissing him. I feel like this little story challenges me and delights, as more often than not, I think of the sound of the shofar as being directed towards me. Wake up, stop sleepwalking, experience life, it's happening right now. So there is something perspective shifting about this inversion. What if the blowing of the shofar is our call to something bigger than ourselves? I'll invite any of our children, if they'd like to make their way upstairs. If you want to go in, you sure can. If you want to stick with us, that's really cool. But if you want to stick around, we'd love to have you stick around. Let us settle into this time of ritual together. Let us settle into some time of sharing the joys and the sorrows of our gathered community. If you would wish, you can place a hand over your heart to listen to our joys and our sorrows from this heart-centered space. We have many joys and sorrows. As Dolores places stones into a bowl, I will read the joys and the sorrows of our gathered community. And folks online are also invited to share in the chat, that we may hear your joys and your sorrows as well. We have a joy this morning from Kitty Forbush. An absolutely delightful wedding between Aaron and Nick Scott in UURoc this past week. It was a festival of love. We have a joy from Marty Eggers and also from Richard Reed. 20 folks came together at church Friday evening to enjoy the Bandaloop group performing dances off the side of 5 Star Bank, part of the Fringe Festival. Many thanks for organizing this. A joy from Emma Berry, who got to celebrate her birthday with her and her brother last night for the first time. Wonderful, Emma. A joy for Richard Reed. Finally, this Tuesday, I'm having my spinal taps and CAT scans. I'm hoping to know the results by mid-October, along with a prognosis treatment. A joy from Kathy Flynn, who just walked 113 kilometers of El Camino and can walk. That is 100% awesome. And from Kitty, a joy at attending the induction of 9 amazing into the National Women's Hall of Fame this past week with Elizabeth. We share this morning also in our sorrows and in some of our mixes. I imagine both a mix of joy and sorrow for Grant Fish. His divorce is final. Our sorrow this morning from Bill Elwell and from many of us in our community, Iranian people, holding Iran in our hearts this morning. A sorrow this morning from Egger, one of Betty McCoy's sons, passed away last month after a year-long illness. Cards would be greatly appreciated. And this morning from Bonnie Volk, the wonderful neighbor who purchased my house 2 years ago, died unexpectedly Wednesday after joint replacement surgery. Elvis Reyes was known as the leader of the street. He had the kind of heart. Elvis was a firefighter in the city, along with 2 of his sons and his brother. We'd have neighborhood picnics. There would always be a fire truck present for the kids. I'm on, holding and all who knew and loved him in the heart of love. And we also join with the sorrow from Elizabeth Ost. I mourn the loss of Tom McGath, who taught me many years ago about letting go with love. We'll drop 1 stone into the bowl, all of the joys shared by our online community, and a stone for all of the sorrows shared by our online community. And let us drop 1 final stone into the bowl to represent all of us and sorrows left unspoken in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. May all be held in the heart of love. Our prayer this morning is an opening prayer for Rosh Hashanah, inspired by Ecclesiastes and written by Janet and Sheldon Martyr. So I'll invite you to just sit in your seat, roll your shoulders away from your ear, knees back. Allow yourself to be held today as we enter into prayer together. Everything, there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. It is a season of the soul, time to rejoice, to reflect, a time to return, a time to gather around the table with loved ones and friends, a time for song and silence, for prayer and confession, to open the heart. A time to retreat to our sanctuaries within. A time to renew the life and spirit of our community. This is the season of attentiveness. A time to notice what has unfolded and what has not. A time to regret, a time to forgive, a time to remember dreams and high ideals erased by reality. This is a season of hope. Like mist rising at sunset, like dew descending at dawn, our hopes defy and nourish everything they touch. Our hopes make us partners in creation, pursuers of peace, people who aspire to a world of justice. This is the season of awe. When our eyes behold it, may we feel blessed. When we turn toward each other, us feel strength. When we seek the holy, may we find purpose. May we find courage. May we find love. At this prayer of our hearts this morning. Amen. Let us enter into a time of silence to go toward those sanctuaries within. As we return from our meditations, as we prepare our hearts for these days of awe, let us sing together hymn number 396, I Know This Rose Will Open. We'll sing it 3 times. This evening, our Jewish congregants and community prepare for the beginning of the new year on the first night of Rosh Hashanah. Shana Tov First Universalist. May 5783 be a good year for you and yours. It is a time of new beginnings following the month of Elul, where folks have spent time in between, in reflection, in a season that is about discernment and preparation for the new year to come. Rosh Hashanah at its core, if you are not familiar, is a time to reflect on the year that has passed, to atone for times when we fell short and were out of right relationship with those around us, and to clear space for the new year to come. It is a time both of freedom and joy, yet also a time of deep repentance and owning harm. In these beginning times, in this new year, I wanted to explore a different aspect of the Holy Fool, our theme for this season. I want to explore what it look like to believe in a God or a higher power who themselves are a holy fool. Rabbi Adina Allen and her mother, Pat B. Allen, wrote a beautiful article about this idea of God as holy fool. In their writings, they explore what it might look like to think of God in the creation texts of the Torah as a holy fool, one embracing a beginner's mind and moving into the great unknown. They write, we might consider that rather than commanding creation to emerge from nothingness, God is noticing what is already emerging on its own and delighting in it. They explore different translations of the Jewish creation texts, looking at ways God is embracing a new practice, listening to where creation is leading and relishing in the chaos of a new. In this reading, God is not a being sitting above and apart. God is listening. God is among. God is paying attention. God is noticing and delighting in the act of creation. And God is along for the ride, giving into a journey that was not wholly formed at the beginning. Like a holy fool, God is jumping in and allowing the journey to guide them. For those of us here who have undertaken a new project, a child for the first time, or entered a new job, we are likely familiar with the chaos of a new creation. We are familiar with the feelings of being wholly unprepared, along with experiences we can draw from, know what it might look like to build sailing while we are along the journey. It is a holy mess. There are resources that we had beforehand that can go straight out the window. There are ways new challenges present themselves that we are not prepared for. There are needs and challenges that could have never been anticipated. New beginnings are just like this. Rabbi Harold Schulweis writes in an excerpt from the Mishkan Hanafel, which is actually the book that our Reform congregations here in Rochester use to mark Rosh Hashanah. Schulweis writes, Rosh Hashanah celebrates the birth of the universe. The birth, not the birth of any particular religious tradition. God did not create religion. God created the universe, and within the universe, humanity. Imagine what it must have been like for God to create out of what was emerging to birth this universe, to bring about the world we see, trees, plants, animals, humans, all out of a space of listening for what is emerging and delighting in it. When the oceans appeared, God delighted in that. Out of those oceans, God delighted in each creature, each plant, in each rock and stone and grain of sand that followed. God looked to the trees and said, maybe around this time of year, a flash of orange, a flash of yellow. I'm filled with the beauty of it all, giving a little chuckle, sigh, or even a delighted look of, aha. So like a birth, the beginning of creation is like a bit messy. Like a birth, God, as holy fool, anticipated in wedges of morning and remained wholly open to what would come. God was asking the question, what is needed? And answered with the world and the universe we inhabit, and also each and every one of us. I understand that not all of us are believers in God here. I understand that we likely have some proud atheists here in this space. Yeah, I heard, yep, we're here. I understand that the ways that we see the divine are expansive, that many of us here are atheists, agnostic, and humanist. And no, we are here because we each are seeking connection, that we are each in need of sustenance, that we seek some deeper meaning and purpose in life. And I wonder, what role creation play in what you believe about the world? Is creation a sacred act for you in your life? Could the act of creation be an entry point to God as a holy fool, in the way that all acts of creation are both foolish and holy endeavors? Something previously unimagined is brought about because of noticing. Something wholly new is created out of the imagination of human beings, and for some of us, out of relationship with the divine. What a holy, foolish act to allow creative spirit to carry us into something or somewhere we have not known before. We have folks in this space, online and in person, who are creative, artistic. I know you are here, people who weave fabrics and knit and quilt. For me, the newest creative endeavor is in the kitchen right now. I am so inspired by the seasonal fruits and vegetables of Western New York, exploring what goes well with each other, how creative I can be with ingredients like kale and chard, which grown for quite a bit of this summer season, tomatoes and cabbage. This creative endeavor has brought me alive and has provided sustenance for my body, has reconnected me with our seasons and our earth. I wonder what creative practices help you to come alive, to wake up, to remember to who and to where you belong. For those of us who are theistic, the exploration of God as holy fool also asks the question, who is God to us? And do we have a God worth listening to? Does our of the divine help us grow deeper as human beings in relationship to other human beings and to our world? A God worth worshiping in a universalist context is a God who loves us, who wants for our spiritual growth, to use the definition of love from M. Scott Peck. And the God that loves us must be honest as well as kind, must be a holy fool, both embracing what might be on behalf of us and holding the mirror up to each of us to show us who we truly are. Straddling the line in love between where we are now and where we could grow and stretch to be and be. In our story this morning, mention is made of the shofar, the loud ram's horn that is blown each year to wake us up to the new year. Have folks here heard this horn before? Yeah, okay. quite a call. And the child in our story is deeply, deeply in need of a wake-up call, but not in a shocking way that the sound of the horn can be. This child is in need of comfort and being held. This child is in need of receiving care and thus wails, letting their cries out that they may be heard. And that comfort comes from one who has created him from his mother, from a nurturing and loving source. In Rosh Hashanah, I have read so much about God as the nurturing parent, offering truth to those of us on this earth about where we have been and what we have done, while also caring enough to help us right our wrongs and create a more just and justice-filled world. These times call us to embrace both the role of loving parents internally, to love ourselves, even though we know we have not been perfect with one another, and to embrace a loving stance externally, recognizing that out of the forgiveness we offer to others, new things are possible. Forgiveness itself is an act of creation. It is an act that enables creation. To forgive, we must be open to a creative encounter, someone's response to a new relationship, to our own inward working. When we forgive, we are open to something new emerging. We are opening ourselves to possibilities of acceptance, of rejection, of freedom, newfound wholeness, of grief. It is a foolish act to forgive. It is both honest and it is wholly out of our control. To forgive, we must turn our hearts over to a process we ourselves are not in control of. To forgive, we must release and embrace an openness that comes. We must allow new things to emerge, embracing what might be. Atonement in this season invites us to be like this son at the door of his mother's house, knocking and wailing, hoping that some relief, some release will come, hoping that we will be forgiven, hoping that we can again return home, hoping that we too can learn the language where we once lived and the people from whom we come. God is the wailing child. God as Holy Fool is the child who cries out, the one who gives a cry, not knowing whether or not help is on the way. God is the child who fears that perhaps they will not be forgiven. Embracing need, allowing to emerge from oneself a cry that can only be about homecoming, and the need for forgiveness, the need to return. We are here in a new time. We are arriving to places that are unfamiliar to us. As fall begins, the season of our lives approaches. It's time to wake up. The new year is here. The time for is upon us. Rabbi Adina and Pat B. Allen conclude their commentary on God as Holy Fool with these words. In these dark and fertile times, let us create as the Holy Fool creates. Let us release our fear of the darkness and chaos, remembering that this is the ground of being for creation. Let us slow down our frenzied activity long enough to hover in proximity to what is, so that we may begin to notice the sparks of what might be. Let us have the courage to call forth in faith and wonder what we see emerging. And let us remember that we are always attached to the primal energy of creation. We sure are in dark and fertile times. As the light begins to grow less after the fall equinox this past week, as the harvest continues in this season, with things still growing in West York, designed to keep our bodies sustained through the winter. As our hearts have been asked to hold so much. As we have lived through a good few difficult years, and as we look on this past year. What might it mean to embrace what might be? To release outcomes and engage in our personal acts of creation as an open process rather than holding on to our image of the outcome. It feels so far from my experience in these times, but I am finding a greater capacity recently to wonder about what might be. To get out of a time when I was living moment to moment, day to day, surviving. I wonder if you are finding this capacity as well. What might be? What could be emerging now in this new year? Let us enter into this newly emerging time, open to the ways Spirit moves in our lives as a holy fool. Let us be open to creative endeavors, to allow a loose hold to be, and to listen for what is emerging. May our hearts be awakened by the shofar's call towards owning the harm we have done, towards remembering and moving into a new year. Embrace the seasons turning. May this year be a good year for you and yours. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be. As we celebrate the journeys each and every one of us are on, as we celebrate the journeys that we undertake each day, let us sing together hymn number 211, We Are Climbing Jacob. Please rise in body or in spirit. Let us keep climbing on together. Please remain standing as we extinguish our chalice flame, both here at First Universalist and in our own homes. Let us read the chalice extinguishing. extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls to the world we live in until we are together again. I'll invite you, wherever you are, to place a hand over your heart, to take a moment to look around you. If you're joining us online, in your view to gallery view, here in the sanctuary, let us look upon one another's faces. Let us be reminded this morning that if we stumble, these are the folks here to help us. We are in need of forgiveness. These are the folks here to help us. This morning, I want to just invite you in the days ahead into the holy, foolish acts of creation, of forgiveness, of atonement, of waking. Wake up. 5783 is arriving. Let us open our hearts to wake up. And may we know here in this deepest place, at this new beginning, that we ourselves are loved. Let us go and be that love to whomever we meet. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be so.